It does. It seems like the same thing is following you around everywhere you go. It comes from anybody's voice. They're like, you know, they're saying the same words, and you're like, what is going on?
Oh yeah, I'm like, oh my gosh, no, I'm not. Okay, so then I'm desperate at that time. We were living with a friend of ours' mom that took us in February. So this is June 1st. It was my middle son's birthday, and out of desperation, I called my ex for help. Yep, did it again. Gave him another chance. And we had this wonderful 3-hour conversation. I thought he changed. He apologized. Everything's hunky-dory. Let's try this again. Let's fight this together. Let's get our kids back. Blah, blah, blah. And so I finally got out of Orange County because I missed a court date because I was homeless, and so there was a bench warrant out for my arrest. And so I finally got out of Orange County. It took me 10 months and went back to Riverside County where he was living. He got an apartment. He was almost getting the boys home. And I immediately was like putting myself on calendar. I was scheduling a visit with my boys, a birthday visit with my middle son. And there's a knock at the door. And it's the sheriff's department. My ex-boyfriend had turned me in. And so I went into a PTSD panic attack. They called it hindering police duty. I caught another charge, which is a misdemeanor. I went to jail on June 6, 2014. My parents and my ex-husband bailed me out. I was only there for a few hours. And so at that point, I started fighting my case on my own. I fired the attorneys for ineffective counsel because we have a constitutionally protected right for effective counsel. I skipped a little part. So at the 18-month hearing, which is in 2014, I realized that all these lies are being put on the record as truth in the CPS court. And my defense attorney was not putting any defense paperwork on the record, and he was not objecting to any of the lies being put on the record, and I was not allowed to talk. And I'm like, there's something seriously wrong here. This is not.
And
how is this
people
possible?
And that's to realize you're not the only one. Like parents who are listening into the show, you know, these lawyers are often withholding evidence and not even advocating when it comes to the court arena. But yes, proceed.
Oh yeah, they're all in the same. They go to the same bars together. They sleep with the same women. It's a big brothers club, whatever, you know. So I went home that day from that hearing because I thought we were going to get the kids back because both of us completed the case plan. And so they thought it appalling that he took me back in because I'm this huge abuser. And so because of that, they didn't let the kids come home. And so that's when I went home and I Googled Fight CPS, and this whole arena like opened up. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not the only one. Because at that point, I'm starting to believe I'm this horrible person. You know, I'm like, well, I must have done something wrong. Otherwise, this would not be happening because this is America. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's kind of like a smokescreen to Hitler's legacy, to be real. Yeah. So, yeah, if you think you're in America, wake up. So then I learned about Nancy Schaefer. I learned about her husband, Bruce. I learned about all these Fight CPS, you know, things. And so I started writing my own.
You joined our alternative media network with Tim Scomo and Parental Revolution, and you're now a co-host.
I am, and he wasn't the first outlet, actually. It was Pastor Wiley Drake was the first outlet, and also Walter Davis. He has...
Yeah, I've heard of him.
Can't think of the name of his... Yeah, stay away from him. So I'm not going to get into that right now. We don't have enough. That's a whole other show. But anyway, I was on these. I was talking on the radio about my story, and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh," you know. And I'm, you know, there's others. And then what I joined the protest, you know, nationwide protest against DCFS and CPS. And what I did is I wrote thousands upon thousands upon thousands of emails to every seat in the nation about this horrible problem going on, with others, and also including my own personal story. And I also contacted every news media outlet there is out there, including alternative ones. And out of all that, I got one response. And that was from Mark Wackler of whiteoutpress.com. And then he found out that I'm a writer, because I am writing my own book. And he's like, well, why don't you write your own? I'm like, ooh. And that's when I got published. It was Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday in 2015.
You write the Canary stories, and little did you know that I was reading your column.
Right. No, I didn't know. We met through
Children's Coalition of Advocacy.
Yes, that's where we met through. And so we had friends in common as well. I can't think of their names either right now either, which we're not going to bring them up either, because it's amazing how people turn out to be different people when you get to know them, and then you hold on to the real one. Yeah. This whole thing has been a trip, dude. Oh my gosh. And so then I start fighting my own case, and I start putting actual defense paperwork on the record, and I'm objecting to things, and I am getting somewhere. I'm like, ooh, is this what justice feels like? Yay. But then I got a little too close.
Wow, she's kicking butt. Like, she's going to go, and she's going to...
I was like, woohoo!
I was rooting for you, because I never thought that you were going to... I mean, okay, go ahead. Go tell the rest. Go ahead.
Okay, so I got... Well, first of all, I put on the record in the CPS court the Declaration of Facts and the objections and corrections to the caseworker's report, which for each report took me 17 hours. And at the time, I had no computer, just my phone. And so I spent that time at the library. And so I put that on the record. Of course, it's, in CPS court, it was just ignored. So then, because what had happened is, I finally left him again because he started acting like, I'm like, oh, I know you. I left my ex December of 14, and my parents helped me out, got me in my own place. But so in 15 is what we're talking about, is where I was, telling my story, shouting it from the rooftops. The other one is the captain, Kenneth Skeeter Boxberger. I was on his show, and I started, Angel Warriors for Justice with Patsy Grant out in Ohio, and, things were just humming along, and I'm like, I'm going to get this. I organized my own memorial march for Senator Nancy Schaefer at the 5-year anniversary of her murder.
Yeah, you did a great job on that, by the way.
Yeah, and I have like a speech and everything that I prepared, that takes after the I Have a Dream speech. I quote Martin Luther King throughout it. I called it I Too Have a Dream. And, I was doing all these things, and, had my visits and everything. But for some reason, they didn't like me exposing this, and so they were retaliating against me. And so in March of 15, my mom and I went to they were so generous. Their generosity overwhelms me. I had 2 hours every other week with my children. That's it. No phone calls, nothing. Just, that's it. And at this supervised visit, I noticed that my baby had, and he's 4 at the time, his hands looked like swollen, like something, like as if he was tied up. Is the only thing I could possibly think of is what was happening with his hands. And I hear my God voice say, lift him up his shirt. And I wouldn't normally lift up his shirt. And I lift up his shirt, and lo and behold, there are huge red handprints all over my baby's back. And I'm like, oh my God, Mom. And my mom's a doctor. Okay, she recognizes, abuse. And she's like, oh my gosh, she was shaking. I've never seen my mom shake like that in my life, like ever. And the cow of a woman sitting in the corner supervising this, she's like, oh, we're terminating the visit. And I stood up to her. I go, the hell you are. I go, you have a false sense of superiority over me. I am not inferior to you. These are my kids. We have rights. I'm exercising them right now. And I'm videoing it, and I'm taking pictures, and Patsy Grant just happened to be visiting at that time, and she immediately puts it all over Twitter and Facebook. And I'm wanting to call the police for, child abuse. The new foster parent, obviously abused my child. And so they call the police on me, saying I'm trespassing when it's a court-ordered visit. And so my mom and I are explaining to the police what's going on. They took my child to their doctor, and their doctor said it was a rash and gave them ointment, which is a bunch of malarkey. And at that point, they had suspended my visits because my behavior and my mother's behavior was, quote unquote, appalling.
I'm sorry, it's not funny.
It is funny. It's ridiculously funny.
I mean, it's just, I hear this so much. And they overreact and dramatize every little thing that you do. It's like, nobody really quite comprehends that CPS will use the truth against you.
So I go to court and I fire Charles Casey because I wrote a motion that actually was the exact answer to the motion of suspending the visits, and I have my case law there.
And I want to add something. They will use the truth against you, but they will convolute it also with lies on top of lies and make it more difficult for you. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're fun. And so I am wanting to put these motions that I drafted myself, because I got very good at this, on the record, and he's refusing to. He's like, well, that's not the law. I go, you want to know why you don't think it's the law? Because you've been in this unlawful courtroom for so long, you don't even know what the law is. And I fired him. And he's best friends with that judge, Judge Timothy F. Freer, F-R-E-E-R. And,
I want to encourage people to go to these law firms' websites and look who is contributing. Look who their donors are.
Yeah. Oh, and they all have that number that you can look up. What is that, Amelia? The number that they're part of the
mandated reporter.
No, where they have they're part of, not their bar number, but they have like an actual, like, New York Wall Street number. What is that?
Oh, Dan and Bread Street. Dan and Bread Street.
Yes. Dun and Bread Street. Yeah, they have it. Yeah. They all do. They're all part of it. But and then you're sitting there telling the truth to them, like, look, I know you're corrupt. I know the law. I know what you're doing is wrong. And they just attack you. And so I lost visits with my kids. I didn't see them for a really long time. But in the meantime, they have given visits back to my ex-abuser, because it's amazing. Before I started squawking like a huge bird on top of a tree about all this corruption, they had put a restraining order on my ex-abuser against the kids and against the social worker and the foster mom, because he had threatened them, because he does that. And it was like a permanent 3-year restraining order, but magically this rescinds, and he is getting overnights with the boys, and he actually had the boys with him all of 2016. So they took the abuser's side. They do this a lot because they know that if they put the kids back with the abuser, 9 times out of 10 they'll be able to remove them again. More money for them, cha-ching. Title 5E and 4 funding, right? So I don't see my kids 2 years. I mean, nothing. I don't know if they're alive or not or whatever. I do know they're in an abusive foster home. So now in 2015, September 9th, 2015, I go to court with a motion to vacate the docket and the motion to vacate the judgment, void judgment, and I had intentional tort, I had color of law violations. I was charging the DA and the judge with criminal charges. Mm-hmm. And I went in there, I even had zip ties in my purse. I was like literally going to like do a citizen's arrest on both of them. That's what I was going to do, and I was going to win. I was going to walk out like victorious. And so, watch this! I had like 5 court watchers. One of them is the attorney that was helping me. That was a friend of mine. And so I am 4 sentences in. So I go in there and I go, okay, due to a Rule 11E, I need to clear the record that I am not Tiffany McDermott. And we cannot proceed with proceedings until this is cleared out of the record. And his response to me is, you need an attorney.